Morning.
It's great to see each and every one of you. And at this time, we'll turn it over to our city clerk.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, July 27th. We have approval of minutes from July 13th and July 20th. Request for waiver of the noise ordinance. Appeals, we have requests for waiver of the noise ordinance on November 24th and 25th from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. This is in Charmaine Circle East.
Let me hold that over for just 1 week.
August 7th from 6:30 to 10 p.m. on O'Shea Road.
All right.
July 30th from 7 to 10 on Westwood Street.
All right.
September the 2nd through the 3rd from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. and on September 4th from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's in Langham Park.
Yeah.
July 31st.
Cross country.
From 2 p.m. until 7 p.m. This is also in Langham Park. Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. We have Reggie Hill regarding the UDC, public safety, council rules and procedure, abuse of power, and city retirees. Ordinance is held over. 64026, ordinance to amend and restate Chapter 64, the City Code zoning. 57028.
Are we going to look at the dates for this at this point, or just have it come back next week again? Because we were going to have another meeting on the UDC.
Yeah, because this one is the same one that's been held over. So yes, we do need to set a date for another meeting. We had talked about getting more information on the
Special exemptions.
yeah, the uses, so that we could go through that in more detail.
So do we want to assign this another date? Because it's going to come back.
I definitely think we should.
Yeah, I think it would be better than for people to keep seeing it and we're not ready.
How much time do you all think would be appropriate?
Well, I think we also need to get with Shayla and her staff to make sure when they are available to do this, because it really will be them that we are talking mostly to and with.
Let's see if we can, between now and 10:30, get an understanding from her about what times would be good over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and hopefully be ready to assign this a date at the 10:30 meeting.
In other words, we'll have a date for the next meeting of the Committee of the Whole.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
57028, ordinance granting a small cell wireless facilities license to Verizon. 15029, ordinance to amend and restate Chapter 15 of the City Code regarding the Mobile Library Board.
And the change on this is to, right now, the board makes recommendations. And you're going to remove that as the language, that they will not make any recommendations.
Well, in the years that I've been here,
Yeah.
they've not made any recommendations to me, period. And so I think the two major changes, Mr. Aldridge, if you could, just so we're on firm ground, if you could communicate that for us.
Two major changes are, one is that board members are eligible for reappointment more than 2 terms. And two, that the recommendations of who gets to be picked, they can come from them, but they're not required to, in order for the council. The council can pick whoever they want.
Right, we've always
Right.
been like that.
So the library board can continue to make recommendations, but the council is not required
You're
to
not bound
choose
by that.
amongst those recommendations.
Correct.
Right, that's all, Okay, but you're taking out the language that they even make a recommendation. Do I have that correct?
Well, they could still do it, you know.
Right, but you're taking it out of the language of their setup.
That's right.
And you're saying also that they could not sit more than 2 terms?
Now, right now, their rule says they won't reappoint somebody more than 2 terms. They won't recommend somebody more than 2 terms.
And a recommendation is such that it's a recommendation, it's not a mandate.
Not right now.
Right, but it's never been, but,
The way this ordinance is written, y'all can only pick from whoever they recommend.
even though it's a recommendation, not a mandate.
So really, essentially,
Requires their recommendation. We can't act without their recommendation as it's written right now. And now it's taking out that requirement for us to wait on a recommendation before we make it.
But I didn't see the word required recommendation.
It's part of the steps. I'm adding that for clarity, but it is.
It's never been, but, okay, that's fine. I think the board will still
There's
function.
others just like that.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
old language said, "The council shall fill vacancies on the library board, including expired and unexpired terms, from nominations proposed by the library board."
right.
Okay. So they won't have that nomination issue. So aren't you taking out the nomination?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
They can still make suggestions, just like all
Absolutely.
these boards and commissions do.
Yes, well, sometimes you go looking for that because it's helpful because
Right.
they have identified people, but,
And,
I
and
get
if
it.
that's what you choose to do, you still have that option.
right, okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Consent resolutions held over. 37551, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a lounge retail Class 1 license for the Stables Bar on St. Francis Street.
No problem.
03548, create an ad hoc animal shelter citizens advisory committee.
On this one, I sent out a text. I didn't get any opposition.
No.
Just remove.
What was your text? What was your text?
My recommendation, the text was just simply to take out the residency requirement.
Right.
And I have someone who I trust and I've known for ages that does not.
Live in the city limits?
Does not live in the city
Are
limits.
they in the PJ?
No.
So neither that, okay.
But is willing and able and very qualified to represent me in this position. It's an ad hoc committee.
Yeah, no, I
If this
know,
was a
it's
standing
temporary.
board, it may
It's
be
temporary.
something different, but this is to gather information.
Right,
And
okay.
I trust that information will be gathered.
Did they live in another municipality?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Best, come on.
But if we
It's an
made
ad
that
hoc
the rule, we would ought to have an employee. You know? I agree with you, John.
It's okay. I mean, I'm just questioning, that's all. It's fine.
All right.
Mostly because it's a temporary board that will hopefully be helpful to the council.
That's right. So I will make a motion when it comes time to, after it's been moved and seconded, then I will make a motion to amend by
It's fine.
striking the language that requires.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
CIP resolutions held over. 08558, approved purchase order to Musco Sports Lighting, lighting for the Mims Park Sports Fields. Resolutions held over. 08560, approved purchase order to Craft Show for film production services of PSAs for the MPD. 08561, approved purchase order to Southern Lighting and Traffic Systems for 30 decorative street light poles for the Traffic Engineering Department. 08562, approved bid awards for fuel for equipment services. 23563, accept permanent and temporary construction easements for the 12 Mile Creek Bank Stabilization Project. 21564, authorized contract with Arena Fire Protection, Inc. for fire alarm system upgrades at the History Museum of Mobile. 21565, authorized contract with Geo Syntec for 3 Mile Creek Watershed Restoration Project. 21566, authorized performance contract with the Downtown Parks Conservancy.
I have, if I could talk about that one, I have something that I'd like to add to our, I guess it's a resolution, correct? And that would be, this is the language, and I worked with our council attorney on this. Be it further resolved that any development of previously undeveloped space or change in use of Bienville Square shall comply with requirements of City Code Section 41-7, which is to let the community know. I know this is for their design and plan, so I don't know if that has to be developed, but if there's anything that changes, you know, some of the use, and I know they talk about a children's space. I mean, I've tried to read articles and reach back and all the information that I could get off of the website, you know, by putting in this group. And the group goes back to 2015, I believe. So it's, you know, it's a long term, and they're very dedicated to making this a better facility or better space. But they need to follow the rules. And whenever we have something in a park, like we did with Walsh Park, we did with the dog park, like we did with the skate park, we have a public hearing to announce it to the community and take feedback. So that's something that I think should be in our language for all of you that are going to be here when this comes forward after they get their plans. So I hope that you'll allow me to amend this and approve this process, which is following city code. Till that code's no longer on the books, but I don't know why it wouldn't be, because public parks belong to everybody. I hear any support? Good.
I ain't got no problem with it.
Thank you.
This park means a lot to citizens across the community, and while we appreciate the advocacy and the hard work of the Downtown Parks Conservancy, we certainly need to make certain that the public is aware of what's being proposed, and how it would be implemented, and how these resources will be spent, because it belongs to all of us.
Right. Thank you.
31567, adopt the U.S. Treasury ARP action plan.
All right.
We have as everybody knows, we have a Finance Committee meeting today at 1 o'clock in order to discuss the ARP again. I think this needs to be held over at least a week. On the other hand, and I keep reminding, I think the people at the dais and the people down here know this, but I keep reminding the general public that this is not something we can mess around with forever. We have got to act on this by August 15th in order the city can be in a position to submit the plan by August 31st. Now, there have been a number of people out there who have said they want to provide input. Now is the time to provide the input, because the council is going to be acting on this shortly. So, Mr. President, I'd suggest that we just hold it over for a week and see where we are next week.
Can I comment on this?
Ms. Rich.
The American Rescue Plan, the first report that needs to come in are the areas where the city plans to spend the money. It's not the itemized list. That comes in the next quarterly report, and yes, that will move rapidly. But it's not something that is due. Our other cities in our state, same size or bigger, are not itemizing to exact programming. They're just saying it's going to go to affordable housing or home ownership. It's transportation, whatever. It doesn't line item as the list that we've been given initially. So that's something that has to be done. I don't disagree with you. It's just not itemized at this point. It's more putting the buckets out there that you want to fill.
Mr. President, I understand that it doesn't need to be itemized, but the buckets need to be identified. And so I'm just again, reminding everyone that there is a deadline by which we have to act. And we have a committee meeting this afternoon. I hope it's an opportunity for council members to ask any questions they may have. But again, we need to act soon. Let's just hold it over 1 week and see where we are next week.
Okay.
I don't have an objection to that. And again, we want to stress to all of the organizations and stakeholders who have expressed interest in having input and presenting ideas and proposals that we are open. We've given you the venue to disseminate that information, city clerk at cityofmobile.org, so that all of us can get it, and we'll have the proper time to analyze it and mirror it against all of these other priorities and concerns to see where we end up. But in order to have a seat at the table, you got to come to the table, and so we hope that will be happening soon.
So we're laying this over
1 week.
1 week?
1 week, yes, ma'am.
Consent resolutions being introduced, 03571, reappoint Katarina Eccles to the Architectural Review Board. 37572, 573, 574, 575, 576 are recommending approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 1 license for Rascals Lounge on Costa Rica Street, for a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Family Dollar Store on Stanton Road, for issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Family Dollar on Spring Hill Avenue, issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Zippy Mart on 3 Notch Road, retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Brothers Quick Stop on North Cody Road. 60, 577, 578, 579, 580 are determining appropriations to the Boys and Girls Club of South Alabama's Penelope House, United Methodist Intercity Mission of Mobile, and Keep Mobile Beautiful, serve a public purpose, and approve payment. 03602, appoint Bob Allen to the ARB. 21603, authorized contract with Everett Coleman for services as an election specialist. 27604, request Secretary of State to reinstate and apply emergency rule to the August 24th municipal election, so voters who fear contracting COVID-19 will be eligible to vote an absentee ballot.
Can we discuss that?
Ms. Rich?
Well, there's already a way to get an absentee ballot for health reasons. I mean, that's something you could check, that you're not comfortable coming to the polls, and so you pull an absentee ballot. We have that process. Do we not? Did we drop that? No.
But
You
this,
can't use COVID, fear of COVID for this election.
You can
After
say
May
you
20th.
you have a health reason. It's a personal health reason. I don't think anyone's going to get into, if you are vulnerable to be around the public in order to vote, that's a health reason. You don't have to specifically say COVID.
Why don't we have
It's already, it's,
I was just going to suggest that we have the clerk explain the absentee voting procedures to us that currently exist.
As of May 20th, 2021, the Governor's Emergency Act ended, and the use of using COVID, fear of COVID, to vote absentee was no longer in place. So there are several options on the absentee application that you can check to vote absentee.
what are they?
I'm not familiar with health reasons, as you're stating.
I'm not
You
either.
expect to be out of the county or country, you work a shift, you're a student in college out of the city or county or state, you have an infirmity and you're age 65 are older and or you're disabled. And what else? That's off the top of my head.
Those are the big ones.
The Secretary of State, at the last election,
If you could get further your mic, please.
at the last election, the Secretary of State, using a state law that gives them the authority to do so, entered an emergency rule that said fear of COVID qualifies under the physical illness or infirmity exception. On May 17th, the Secretary of State wrote the city a letter that said that excuse is no longer a valid excuse. So if that's your real reason and you check that box, then I guess technically according to the Secretary of State, you're lying to the absentee people. So the resolution would ask them to reinstate this rule, because back in May, nothing was going, well, COVID was, pretty subsided at that point.
Right.
Now with all this Delta stuff, it's just asking them to reinstate this rule for the city's election. And, they've got the authority to do it. There's still a national emergency that's been declared. And, whether he will or not remains to be seen.
So, Ms. Rich, I presume that you may be referencing, I am physically incapacitated?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. And the thing is, I realized that COVID was an umbrella to allow it, but who would stand in the way of somebody who feels they're
Health
have
is in
a
jeopardy?
infirmity or I mean, it's like no one goes back and takes a physical on a person to
But
find
why
out what
should-
their reason is. They make a reason that to me falls well, and we're like sending out this message that they can't check it, and they could check it, and it's a personal thing of why you want an absentee ballot. It's just, I understand all the nuances, but we're making it as though they can't do it, that someone's going to come and drag them away from their ballot. The ballot comes to their home. They say they have an infirmity or a disability, something that is in the way of them physically coming to do the one-on-one voting. But they're not precluded from getting that ballot based on their health concerns.
well,
Well,
I
my-
think that in the previous election in November, that
was a national election,
A
too.
national,
Yeah.
in that election in November, when people marked the absentee application, they actually, I think they wrote COVID on there. And now we're saying that you can't write COVID on here, but I mean, you still mark it as you feel it
Do
relates to
people
your
actually say,
condition.
do they actually say on the ballot, do they just check the box? Do they have to then drill it down to say, they're a cancer or they're a,
No, but I believe people did do that.
Right.
And so I'm just saying, I'm making
hear
it
you.
clear for this election, the City of Mobile municipal election on August 24th. If you check that, whatever box it is that you're checking, you cannot write COVID on there. That is not an acceptable, reason.
health reason?
Right. So you check
well,
the box and move on.
Okay.
That's appropriate for, you with voting absentee.
So are we saying then, if you have this sense where we're getting all this feedback in our city about this new variant of COVID that is causing an alarm to our health, facilities and personnel, that if they choose that and they write it down, you're not sending them a ballot back, correct? Is that what you're saying to them? Or would they still get their ballot after they got their ID and all of the information in with their absentee request?
I'm sending it back, and I'm probably writing on there that you cannot use COVID as an excuse in
But if they
accordance with
just
the
checked health,
Secretary-
you don't get into the weeds, correct?
Right.
Maybe we just
But-
need to get that information out to people.
But this is my point and my concern. It's bigger than the individual who may write in and request that an absentee ballot be mailed to them. It's also concerning that individual who may want to come when the absentee ballot center is open. Won't we have days and a time from 8:30 to 4 where a citizen can just walk in and declare one of those reasons to vote?
Yes.
So it's bigger than the individual who's going to get it in the mailbox. It impacts that person who chooses to come here. And we're seeing, we're hearing from all of our medical professionals how this Delta variant
Right.
is
It's a health
just.
reason.
I was listening to a report this morning about Alabama, 300% of an increase. It's different from May. We're in a different situation, and if it was good enough for our national election in November, it ought to be good enough for these municipal elections. All we're asking them to do is to consider giving us the ability to have that protection. Why wouldn't we want our citizens to have it? What would be the legitimate reason why we would be against this? If I have a fear of COVID, and I do, others do too. I've been hearing that all the while when I'm on the campaign trail about not wanting to be in close proximity to individuals on election day. So if we can give them that peace of mind and not have them lie, because that's what you're essentially telling them to do is, in order for me to feel safe and participate in the process, is to choose a method that I may not actually qualify for. Why would we put them in that situation? And many of them are going to be in church vans, and you're asking them to declare something that may not be 100% accurate while they're getting a ride in a church van.
Because,
If they're in a church van.
but basically, your health is a personal thing.
They're not
It's-
absentee balloting as it relates to coming here to Government Plaza in person. In-person absentee, Joe Davis. That's what it's called. I understand the difference. You get one in your mailbox, and you bring your ID and you vote here. What are the dates and times for that, Madam City Clerk? For the in-person absentee?
Well, I mean, you can do that Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 if you want.
That's the program that I'm referencing.
And
So if they show up in person and say, I've got COVID, or I'm scared of COVID, you're going to say that's not a qualifier to be in this.
Just check the health thing.
That's
Right.
correct, yes?
Right.
And so, if we were, do we have the authority as a municipality at this stage of the game to make that a criteria of absentee ballot
Get in
voting
here,
in
John.
person?
John,
remotely?
get in your mic, please.
I understand.
Yeah.
We cannot. Lisa's got to follow what the Secretary of State tells her, and he's flat out said. So it's basically a don't ask, don't tell situation to use that method.
So I guess we need to get this straight. The Secretary of State and/or Governor have to declare a state of emergency, and it would have to be statewide, only citywide, only Mobile or Birmingham, all the other cities?
The
Or
law
how would-
says in the event of a state declared or national emergency, the Secretary of State can kick in this power. And there's still a national emergency that remains effective from February.
So they could make it for municipalities that happen to have an election cycle. It could be that drilled down from the Secretary of State, correct?
The rule applied to any election.
That's
back
currently
then.
going
So
on
if he-
during this time
if he
frame.
reinstates the rule, then it'll apply to whatever elections are happening during that time in the state.
And
Which is only two, I think.
Mr. Arch, all we're making with this resolution is a request.
Correct.
They still have the ability to tell us no. But at least we would have made the ask.
All right, and since we're adding this thing, I'm going to extend the questioning. Is it just for in-person? Is that what we're asking, so that a person can show up here in person
No, it would be for any absentee
Right.
ballot,
or mail-in?
or application, actually, I guess.
that, they want to vote absentee for fear of, contracting COVID.
But they would
that's a-
still come here in person
Or,
to get an absentee ballot with fear of COVID, standing in line and going to your office. That doesn't make sense either.
But the line won't be nearly as long.
Well,
The line-
but Ms. Lambert, if you would explain how you will set up here.
Right.
Now, I can understand maybe by mail, that's the reason they're doing, but if they're actually going to come here in person and say they want an absentee because they fear COVID, but they're still willing to stand in line and come in church vans, I don't know that that makes sense. If you would just
That's
explain to us how
Yeah.
everything will work here with absentee, I think that would help.
Monday through Friday, we're set up in our old pre-meeting room behind this auditorium here, and we'll have election workers there processing applications for absentee ballots. Of course, people can walk in, fill out an application, and vote their ballot, put it in the secrecy envelope, and do the affidavit envelope, all of that. It's the same way. It's not putting it in a machine. It's not, casting a vote in a machine. It's the same way as if you were at home, but you're actually in the absentee election office. On Saturday, August the 7th, from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m., those persons that, as I understand, and I've heard from people that have called to ask if we were having voting on Saturday. We're doing one Saturday, August the 7th, from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. for those persons that want to actually come in person but cannot make it during the week. So we'll have one Saturday, which is August 7th, same location. And we'll have one extended hours evening on August the 10th. From 5 p.m. until 7 p.m., where you can do the same thing. You can come in and fill out your application, vote your ballot, put it in the secrecy envelope, and seal it in the affidavit envelope.
And you'll have the sneeze guards and
We'll have
masks.
sneeze
and
guards.
Distancing. and-
We'll have the table. It's set up just like a regular polling place. You'll have the divider set up. Only a certain number of people will be in the room at a time, at a certain time, and then we're letting, more in that way. So.
And again, it's a request. We know the answer if we don't make the request, which is no. And if we get an answer that isn't positive, we move forward. But at least we would have tried to provide this extra voting amenity to citizens in this very dangerous time period we're in.
Not to keep nitpicking, because I understand where you're going, but maybe if people want to do absentee by mail, it would make more sense to request them to be able to write in COVID on those ballots rather than if you're actually going to come down here yourself and stand in line and do it. Because being fearful of COVID when you're willing to come and stand in line or get on a van and drive down with a lot of people, that seems to be a little counterintuitive, but that's just...
yeah, I don't disagree. If we were asking for mail-in to be able to check that block or to be able to write on the mail-in ballot, or mail-in absentee ballot application,
Because of fear of
write in
COVID,
COVID,
yeah.
then I can understand that. And so I agree with you.
Maybe we can just reword the request a little
Well,
bit. Would
but that
work?
presupposes that we're going to have a long line.
You're presupposing that on election day, there are going to be long lines that are going to be different than what the absentee is going to be.
Well,
And there's no
I
way to know
think there are
that.
5 or 6 of us that are running for office that wanted to be long lines.
Yeah, well,
That's what we're
your
trying to
votes.
get people out to vote.
count your votes.
And we ought to I think people vote their conviction
Yep.
at this point.
All right.
But in any way that we can assist our citizens in participating in the democratic process without having this extra fear attached to it, I just don't see why it's an issue. Whether it's in my mailbox or if I choose to get in my vehicle and pay $5 to park in a parking lot and walk in and vote. If fear of being around a big crowd is what's motivating me, it shouldn't matter. They're following every other rule. They're going to have ID. It's got to be, every other rule is being followed. What difference would it make? And there was not one instance of impropriety when this was in place for the last election. If it is, somebody show me.
Good luck.
Where did they misuse it?
Good luck. Let's go on. I said, vote your conviction.
Well, would you be willing to reword the request letter just to do mail-in ballots, or is that just something that you're not interested in looking at?
I don't see the difference. It's 6 in one hand, half a dozen, it's an absentee ballot. No matter how you got it, whether the postman brings it to you or the city clerk staff gives it to you, it's still being presented to you.
I think the healthcare reason that you check fits the box for COVID. It's for some reason everyone elevated, not for some reason, no, there was a reason. Because it was in the media and it's a pandemic. And maybe it's even spiraling back, who knows? But the idea that you can check something that says it's health and you're not required to put down and drill it down as to exact what your health condition is, because that's basically a HIPAA violation if you're repeating it places. It's not allowed. It's your personal conviction and information that you retain. You don't give it out in public. So I just don't understand if it's there, and even if they put down COVID, it's still their health condition that is precluding them from coming. Why does it have to be something that is anointed by governments? It's a personal thing. And it says, check your health. Now, if you choose to put down you have liver cancer or whatever, that you could put it in. And the government doesn't say, well, that's not a reason why you can't come. They don't check you out. I just think we're making something that is an issue, but we're making it and putting it in a box that's kind of confusing to people.
What's probably confusing to people is this apprehension of why we wouldn't want to make someone confident and secure as they vote to elect their next set of municipal leaders. And we've heard from, I mean, don't get me wrong, I take all that you just said with a grain of salt that it's worth, but mirroring what you said against the chief elections officer and the council attorney that we pay to give us legal advice, I'm kind of on their side. She has said that if that's what they write in, she's going to write them back to say that they're not going to get a ballot. So, I mean, while I appreciate your opinion on that.
They check the box. The box is approved. And it says they have an infirmity or they're over 65. I mean, they checked the box. They didn't even have to drill it down. So just because they put down, in their opinion, what's their health infirmity, it's still a box to be checked.
We can't ask them what your infirmity.
Colleagues, let me say this. We've heard from the city clerk.
Yes.
We've heard from our attorney. At the end of the day, we each have one vote.
Right.
Okay.
Vote your conviction.
Mr. President.
It's a request. All I'm doing by putting it on the agenda is making a request that we make a request. And if it isn't the will of the majority of this council to do that, let's move on.
Mr. President,
Mr. Daves.
the objective, the apparent objective of the proposal is to allow individuals who are fearful of COVID to avoid getting in crowded spaces.
Right.
So I agree with Councilwoman Gregory and Councilman Williams that doesn't make any sense if they're going to come down here and stand in line and walk around out here and just or getting the church bus and that kind of thing. That doesn't make any sense. If it's limited to people who want to vote by mail, in other words, they don't want to leave their house, they want to be able to stay in their house in the safety of their house, then it makes more sense. I think whatever we decide to send up there, if we decide to send anything up there, it's going to receive a chilly reception.
I agree.
And so the more tightly we can focus something that we can all agree to, I think the better the chance is. Remembering again that as Mr. Arledge has said, we're asking the governor or the secretary of state to take an action that's going to affect not only our election, but where is it? It's another, Birmingham?
Birmingham, yes.
Birmingham's election. And I don't know how the mayor and council persons in Birmingham would feel about such a step.
I'd hope they feel great, creating more avenues for their citizens to cast a legal vote.
What happens?
We aren't asking anyone to change any of the process. Everything they have to do traditionally, they have to do it. With the exception, now they have the ability to check the fear of COVID as a reason why they are participating in the absentee balloting process.
So what
Everything
happens
else
if
is
the
same.
state doesn't agree and doesn't answer the affirmative to get
can do
that
it.
done? What happens to people that have that fear of COVID? You're saying they will not vote and they'll be.
I didn't say that.
Then
What they will know is that as their leaders, we at least attempted to give them that option. And if the state
The
says no,
option's
Secretary
there.
of State says no, the governor says no, so be it. But they'll know we tried. They'll know we made an effort.
But we still want to encourage them to vote and
Oh,
to check the
yes, I'm
healthcare.
encouraging everybody to vote. If I have
That's our
to drive them
jobs.
here myself.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be encouragement. Anybody with signs out wants the voters to participate. We're not trying to dwindle the vote, we're trying to increase it so that more people have an opportunity to have a say in how their government moves forward.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson,
it seems to me this has gotten real complicated, but on this agenda, it's real simple.
right.
You're asking the Secretary of State to reinstate the emergency rule. So we don't need to go no further with that. They can say we're going to do it. We'll reinstate it limitedly. They can come back with whatever they want to come back. We're asking them to reinstate the emergency rule. So we don't need to presuppose. What if the secretary say, secretary can say whatever the secretary wants to say, but the secretary not going to say nothing unless we send something up there. So the request is that we send this resolution up to the Secretary of State. Let the Secretary of State decide from there what to do. Then we would have to act based on what the Secretary of State says. But we can go around, we can set up all kinds of scenarios. What if they don't want to sit down when they get down there? What if they don't want to go by what the Secretary of State said, and then we're through? But unless we agree to send that up there, nothing is going to happen. I support the resolution.
Madam City Clerk.
$37,605, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a special events retail license for Saturdays at the Coop on July 31st to September 4th. Resolutions being introduced for the first time, 01581, authorize a cooperative agreement with Moss for Texas Street rehabilitation from Ann Street to Broad Street, $1,987,820.23 to be paid to.
Any opportunity, any appetite to consider this today?
$1 million? Well, not,
$2 million?
No.
Well, it's being paid, it's coming from malls to the city. Right.
I'm okay with
The
it.
citizens in this community have been waiting a mighty long time. It's been well advertised, everyone's aware of it, and it's coming from malls to the city of Mobile. Mr. Williams, you have any objection?
Well, if you wanted me to do that, it would help if, when this thing is brainchild, that somebody talked to me instead of putting me on a spot when I don't know the
that's not
details
my-
of it at
pardon
all.
me,
So,
pardon
no, it's
me.
not your point. I didn't say that.
Yes, sir.
Please understand that when we are asking for exceptions, if those exceptions come, the earlier they come, the better I will understand, and so will the citizens. This thing has been known to the citizens for some citizens since last week when the agenda was published.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President, if I may.
Sure.
This is just a funding agreement. This is not the construction contract. Construction contract possibly next Tuesday or at least maybe the following Tuesday. This is just one piece of the puzzle that's going to plug in $2 million of the about $5.6 million project. So all this is just a funding agreement.
It's like an MOU.
It's MOU. I mean, on these big jobs like this, MAWS has a financial participation in it because we're rebuilding the water system and the sewer system as well. So they're paying for their portion of the project. Their board has to act as well, which their board has already acted to authorize this. We have to have the council act and send that fully executed agreement back to them before they'll actually write the check to us.
All right.
And so we got some more movement. I mean, again, you'll see the construction contract in a couple of weeks, but just to know all this is just a funding piece of it.
You don't have a problem with
Thank you.
that? Okay?
So that's go.
Yep. Maybe want to move it into consent, whatever you want to do. By the way, before we go too much further, the one we just spent so much time on, not to open it back up, but because it's been added today, the record needs to reflect who joined the president in adding the resolution.
Can you say that again, Mr. Williams?
27604 was added, and so we need who
Oh, yeah,
joined
that's
you?
right.
That just needs to be stated for the record, that's all.
Mr.
No.
Richardson and,
Okay,
oh, yeah, okay.
that's
Thank you.
just making sure, yeah, all right. Just a rule, that's all.
01582, authorized lease agreement with Alabama Power Company and SMG for storm staging site at Civic Center. 01583, authorize a foreign trade zone operator agreement with Airbus Americas, Inc. 03584, reappoint, and 585 are reappointing Carlos Finley and Robert Adams Thomas as part-time municipal judges.
I'm going to ask that these two items be assigned to a ad hoc municipal court committee chaired by Council Vice President C.J. Small, and in the very near future, he'll outline how we'll move forward with this process.
08586, approve purchase order to Jack Donahue Company for Ford Transit cargo van for motor pool, $88,000. 08587, approve items-based bid for firefighting helmets from Sunbelt Fire Inc., $254 each. 08588, approve purchase order to Dennis Aluminum Products for 150 decorative street signposts for the Traffic Engineering Department, $65,580.
Where are those going?
Which ones?
Downtown.
Yeah, the decorative, those are the downtown and, yeah.
Thank you.
08589, approve purchase order to Image Trend for annual renewal of software for the fire department, $23,000. 08590, approve purchase orders for fuel for Wave Transit. 08591, approve purchase order to Sherwin-Williams for paint for downtown pole painting, $19,800.
I have a question. Is that for the paint itself?
Yep.
Or is it for the labor to also paint?
That's the paint.
So
Just the
who-
paint.
Who's doing, who will actually do the,
City crews. And we would love to have that unanimous consent as well. I know Councilman Williams just had a concern over that, but we'd like to be able to get those crews out working to repaint. That's repainting light poles, traffic lights, all the poles that are the jet black green color downtown.
and those are poles that belong to the city of Mobile?
Correct.
And don't we have a TIF program downtown? Are they reimbursing the city for all this activity, this special activity?
This piece isn't tied to the TIF per se. This is just routine operations and maintenance.
But I thought that was the whole idea of downtown, the beautification and the upkeep. Why wouldn't they be responsible for something like this? And the poles?
Carol's here.
So, well, I think we might be conflating two different things. The TIF, the Tax Improvement Fund, is administered by the city itself. I mean, and it's for facades and things of that sort, not regular maintenance of city-owned facilities. The TIF funds typically go out to private entities to deal with their facades, not to deal with city maintenance.
They've done sidewalks and park beautification, and those are public.
But
purposes.
typically, but what I'm saying is those funds typically go out to an outside entity. What we'd be doing is the city would be giving money to itself to take care of regular maintenance, which is not something that we do.
But there's other maintenance on other poles throughout the city that could be painted. We probably have all areas. And so any funding that you had would be encouraged to go elsewhere at the same time by getting this group to pay for these, because to me, they're beautification, they're improvements, and I realize they belong to the city, but it's part of a TIF program.
So, I don't know how to say this any clearer. When we're dealing with the TIF, that is the city itself administering funds, and that's only for things that operate inside the TIF, which I think that's what you're getting at.
Is this in the TIF?
Is it located within the confines of the area?
Yeah.
Yes, but we don't use the TIF for regular maintenance for city-owned facilities.
This is just buying paint
Yeah.
for
And
our.
you said labor.
No, just
No.
the paint. This is just the paint.
So there'll be another contract for
No,
labor?
no. This is our employees. The problem is, so this is just normal paint that we would paint anything at downtown, anywhere in the city.
Throughout the city?
Yeah, and the general focus is going to be currently in downtown, but because it's more than $15,000 worth of paint, we're getting a large quantity of it. It had to come for approval. And I would love to be able to get unanimous consent because it's strictly just buying paint from Sherwin-Williams. So it just happens to be a large quantity.
TIF, but,
And
okay.
and again, as Ricardo pointed out, we would just be paying right back ourselves because it's us doing the work. We're not paying a contractor to do this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Where am I? 09592, reallocate $245,000 from the general fund police operating account, regular pay, to capital improvement fund for purchase of Microsoft Office Professional plus software for the police department. 21593, authorized service contract with Port City Industrial LLC for overhead garage doors, counter shutters, electronic gate services at various city facilities, $105,600. 21594, authorized contract with Routeware for route management software for garbage collection services, $650,000 for 5 years.
What is that?
21595, authorized service contract with Johnson Controls for DDC control system inspection and preventive maintenance at the History Museum of Mobile, $74,580. 21596.
Hold on, Madam Clerk. Mr. President, can somebody go back to 21594 and explain what that is?
Sure. This is a new electronic system and software management system for all garbage trucks to be installed on the city trucks to track and both with, as you know, on those vehicles, we currently have a system called, what's the name of the one, Nick, or up there? DriveCam. DriveCam system. DriveCam tracks, any, motion, accidents, things like that. This will replace the DriveCam on those systems, but will install cameras on the trucks as well. It'll allow the department to monitor where the trucks are on the routes at all times. And if a truck goes down, which happens fairly frequently, you have a truck go down for maintenance or something while it's en route, it'll allow the department head to automatically reroute the vehicles to make sure that they get coverage and don't miss pickup. In addition, it installs a number of cameras on each truck, and it'll track every pickup, and we'll be able to monitor every can that gets picked up, whether it was picked up or not, and why it wasn't picked up. So if we have a citizen call in and say, they didn't get my can, they knocked it over, whatever, that'll all be tracked, and we'll be able to monitor and provide exact location on whether it was picked up or not, why it wasn't picked up. For example, if a car's blocking it or it wasn't out at the curb, we will have all that recorded and tracked so that there's no question on what was done, what wasn't done. But most importantly, it'll be able to optimize the routes. So as we load in our current routes, and if we have an ability to find a way to optimize the route better, the software will actually help us figure out the best, most efficient way for us to move throughout the city with the assets that we have to pick up the garbage with the garbage truck. So it's, not a cheap system, but we think it's going to really help enhance the predictability and efficiency in which we operate those assets and do the collection.
Okay. Do we have this, are we going to put this equipment on, please? Yes.
If you could get in the microphone, please.
Okay. Do you anticipate putting this equipment on police and fire vehicles?
This is strictly geared towards garbage collection. This is what it's meant for. This is a system designed strictly for that purpose. As every can, as they go by and they hit the button to grab the can and pick it up, it automatically captures that, and it knows that it picked it up and dumped it, and it goes to every single one, and it optimizes that route. It's really meant to optimize the route in which they go. Does that make sense? So that they're efficiently moving throughout the city. We've been doing the same kind of routes for a long time. We're not sure that it's even the most effective and efficient way for us to even be doing it, to make sure we're getting these picked up in a timely fashion and not missing one. And if one truck or two trucks go down throughout the day, it will automatically, we just say that truck's down, it'll automatically reroute all the other trucks. The drivers will know now this is your new route to go make sure we efficiently pick up everyone's can that day.
Well, the only reason I mentioned that because last time I checked with where our vehicles were going, we had employees driving our vehicles all the way to Leroy, Alabama, and all the way down to Lillian, Alabama, and we don't know what they're doing with it. Are they?
Garbage trucks.
Yeah.
But that's why I say, are we going to install them on vehicles other than garbage trucks? Garbage trucks are going to be parked and even they going home. But our vehicles leave the city with our employees driving it, and they go all the way almost to Jackson, Alabama, in these vehicles. What are they doing? But you answer my question.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Mr. Vice President.
Yeah, Colonel DeLap, is there like a video that shows the operation of this particular software that the council can view and see? I mean, I think it's very unique because, of course, I have reported, a couple times to Mr. Peavy where the city had missed a short, small street. But I think that would be very neat for the council to see if there's such a thing as a video where we can see exactly how that works.
Yeah, sure. We can. I think the vendor has a website or video that we could share, and you could see kind of how it works and how they can track. And other municipalities have used it, and it'll be a good overview. I think there's like a 3 to 5 minute video or something, so I'll share that with council members.
Thank you so much.
Is this something that we would enter into for the 5 years and then have to continue to subscribe at this level of cost every year thereafter?
It wouldn't be this level of cost, but this is for the 5 year. But yes, it would be an ongoing service. The initial upfront is expensive because they install the hardware on each truck. And then afterwards, it's just then the maintenance of the software. Now, we already do that with the route or with the drive cam systems. So those would come off and we would reduce the cost, that cost would go away. So it's offsetting with that, if that makes sense.
Is it $650,000 for the entire 5 year period, or $650,000 a year for 5 years?
For the 650 for the whole 5 years.
Yeah.
That's correct, and it's about 245,000 after that.
Yeah, but $100 and something thousand a year.
That's right.
Do they store it in the cloud, the information?
Yes.
That gets expensive, depending on how long you plan to store it. Do they recommend how long the storage?
No,
needs
I
to
don't
be?
think it's not stored that long, and so I don't know the specifics on how long it's kept, but really it's meant for on the fly being able to reroute and also have that information whether that day or week so that they can see if there's a missed can or missed route. And it'll be very easy to identify, as you'll see in the video, very easy to identify if they missed a street because it leaves a breadcrumb on every route that was done. So a supervisor back at the office can easily track all those assets and know where they're at and if they missed something.
So if this system wasn't in place, how would you do what you're proposing to do here? If this was not available, you would reroute in what way?
Well, it's done just by the operator, or the department head, then them radioing them, and then him kind of trying to manually direct them to where they're going to go. And in this case, you have new operators, it'll automatically tell them. It's like a GPS, it'll automatically tell them, now take this route, because we're trying to get 3 or 4 trucks to cover down on one that went away. So,
$21,596, approved contract extension with Premium Parking of Alabama for cruise terminal parking management, $300,000 per year out of revenue collected. 65979899 600 are approving settlement agreement and release of claims. 60601 approve issuance of revenue bonds by the Infirmary Health System Special Care Facilities Authority. Announcements.
Any announcements from members of the council?
Yes, I had a resolution to be added.
Huh.
Okay.
Who's joining him, and president, and who else on this one?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, this would be a resolution which states that the management and control of finances and all of the property, real personal belonging to the city of Mobile is vested in the city council. By the city council's position that all members of the city council should be allowed unhindered access to their official city mail accounts so that they can effectively communicate with their constituents. So I need 2 people to agree to add this.
This is a legal opinion that was issued by our attorney, and it was put in a resolution form. I had no input into it, and this is the official legal opinion from our attorney regarding this issue.
Mr. President, I don't recall receiving a legal opinion from our attorney on this issue. Mr. Arledge, did you issue such an opinion?
I did to Mr. Richardson.
Who asked for it?
This is the resolution. Mr. Richardson asked my opinion on something. I looked it up about the email situation, and he asked me to prepare a resolution, and this is the resolution.
I haven't seen the resolution.
Well, I sent it. I don't know what happened. I sent it to all council
The
members.
attachment was not there.
I don't know what happened.
How did you send it?
Email.
But you're
Again,
on the emails, right?
Who's joining the president?
Private email.
The attachment
was not on
the email.
I didn't receive it to my knowledge. It stems on the fact that there was a protocol that everyone associated with getting city email had to respond to a test, so to speak, so that we would be enabled to understand what was perhaps be spam. And this is something that's very serious. It's serious on numerous levels. It could shut down the entire city, and which means policing, fire, sanitary, everything, because we're all connected to the internet. So I understand what you're trying to say about which lane each of the different branches fall in.
One second. Let's do this, because
on the agenda.
right,
Okay,
we started
well,
this,
I'm
One
assuming-
second,
We
Mr.
discuss it
Days.
later on. We're just trying to add it. That's all we're trying to do.
Because we're getting into discussion. So if we're going to discuss, Mr. Richardson wants to add it to the agenda. Is there sufficient support? Clearly, we want to talk about it. So is there sufficient support to have it added to the agenda?
Again, it only needs you and one other person.
Is there one other person? I get it. But even for discussion's sake, is there another person?
For discussion sake.
What you're doing, you're adding it.
I go ahead, just for discussion's sake.
I sent it to everybody. I just
Okay.
forwarded it to you all.
The opinion too?
Not the opinion, just the
I thought we got an
resolution.
opinion. I thought opinion was
resolution.
rendered.
Was, opinion was.
He couldn't send it.
At the request of Mr. Richardson.
You got it.
Okay, that's what I'm asking, if it included the opinion.
Okay, Ms. Lambert has sent it to all of us.
Okay. Okay, and that's it.
We're going to add it. I want to stress that we're adding it for the sake of having the discussion. And I look forward to the discussion. Okay. Any other announcements from members of the council? Well, any announcements from the administration?
Absolutely not.
All right.